Hello there, guys. Welcome back to another episode of E&Ftv. Today is a particularly exciting one as we're talking all things M&E revenue management, but within the educational side of things. So before we get into the show, don't forget, like the episode, don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on this week's episode, and of course, join the community. We're bringing you content every single week, every Thursday, with fantastic guests in the industry. And to build that community, we need people to subscribe. We've just hit over 405, I think, subscribers. So make sure you press the subscribe button and join the community. So, without further ado, let me introduce our guest for today. So, I'm joined by my very good friend and industry leader, AIex Drinkwater. AIex, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
I can't believe we've not had you on the show before.
I know, my first time.
I realized just off
Fine.
camera before I pressed record, I was like, oh my God, you haven't been on the show before. This is madness. Anyway, you are, of course, now part of HOSPA Professional Development as a course writer and tutor of the newly created M&E revenue management courses within HOSPA, which are the first of their kind, hugely exciting. And I want to talk to you all about it today. So, I suppose before we go down the course route, I'd love to understand, I guess the audience, just to get to know you a bit. Can you just give us a snapshot of your career, how you've got to this point, and of course, what sort of brought you to stepping into a writer and tutor position for hospital professional development?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Bit
So
of a mouthful there.
yeah. I have been in the M&E industry for somewhere 15, 20 years coming on. And I actually started out in event operations
Right.
before I moved into the commercial side. Yeah, a while ago.
Sure.
I moved over to that side because I wanted to understand a bit more about the why around meeting space, revenue management, and how
Yeah.
we solve the space, how we manage demand. And honestly, at that time, as I'm sure you know, there really wasn't anything like this. So it's
No.
funny to look back now and think about how different my journey might have been. But after that initial move over, I was fortunate to work in some great places where I got a bit of a masterclass in meetings and events revenue management. So I moved
Sure.
to London and worked for Firmdale Hotels for about 6 years.
Yeah.
That is like a playground for meeting and event spaces. So we sold everything from bowling alleys to cinemas to swimming pools to your more typical meeting and events spaces, private dining
Right.
rooms. And then I moved over to Ennismore, where I set up the group meeting and events function for the Hoxton. And we
Yeah.
opened, I think, 10 new hotels while I was there. And I looked after everything from sort of your pricing and your strategies to your marketing of the spaces to the systems and tools that we use. And
Yeah.
while I was at Ennismore, it's there that I came into contact with HOSPA, with Jane and Janelle.
Of
And
course.
that was through your lovely self, Tom, actually.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Through
Yeah.
your,
Yeah. Yeah.
through your M&E roundtables, which I think the first one I attended would have been 3, 4 years ago now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and so here we are today after that.
Amazing, isn't it? I can't believe I've
Yeah,
known you for like that long now,
yeah,
and through the context of how that all came about, crazy.
yeah. It's been a journey.
Um, and of course, so you've stepped into this new position within this new course. I suppose how did that come about? So of course you're attending the meetings. HOSPA, I'm sort of surmising here, but HOSPA were, of course, trying to get to a point where we could start development of a course. But of course, we
Mhm.
needed the buy-in from the industry to be able for HOSPA to justify the work and the investment and so on. And of course, to bring someone as experienced and as skilled as you are to be able to head that up. So, from the moment that HOSPA sort of came up with the concept, I suppose, how did it come about that you were sort of joining? Was it just a conversation between you and Janelle, or was it something that you were really, well, I know you're passionate about it, but yeah, what was that journey like?
Yeah, I mean, it came about super organically, really. I think,
Mm,
and I think it's really important to kind of call out that, as you say, this is HOSPA who's been listening to the industry and
yes.
responding and
Yeah.
reacting to the industry crying out for something like this for 3, 4 years that I've been part of, but for many more
Yeah.
years before that. And so, as these kind of conversations took place and took shape, and every time we met, and you released a white paper. You know, the progress gathered and the stone kept rolling, as it were. The conversations became more and more concrete, and it became more and more clear what was needed to create. So by the time
Yeah.
I actually came on board with HOSPA, which was just a kind of great coincidence of right place, right time, really, for me, if
Yeah.
I'm completely honest. There was already so much that we knew we wanted to achieve. Janelle
Yeah.
had lists and lists of notes of content and everything, that it was really just for me to come and kind of sift through it and put it all together
Yeah.
into hopefully what is a really digestible, easy to learn, enjoyable course format. And that's
Sure.
how the two courses were born.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And I cannot wait. So that I've been looking forward to this episode because I can't wait to hear more and more about it. Because I know that you guys released the video that looked gorgeous, by the way, and again, super informative. But in terms of, okay, let's start with why. Why are these
Yeah.
courses so important for our industry? What is it that our industry are going to benefit from them, and how proud are you to see them going live? Because of course they're going live. Well, we're obviously live, but they're actually starting with the cohort on
Yeah.
Monday next week.
Yeah. So we have the first kickoff call on Monday next week.
Yeah,
And that's two courses starting. So we talk a little bit more about, you know, what the difference between those is. But
sure.
why is a good question. So you know, we've already talked about the industry have been crying out for this year, really quite vocally. As you
Yes.
know, we've got, you
Yep.
know, when we get together and we meet as a cohort, you know, there are some pretty strong voices around the table
Yeah.
calling for this, and we're vocal and we're passionate about what we wanted to create. Um,
Yeah.
Aside from that, I mean, let's start with the good firstly. I mean,
Hmm.
the outlook for the mice industry is super positive.
Yeah.
Wherever you look, wherever you read, it's, you know, the value of meeting in person is not going away. So
Yeah.
in terms of a sound investment as a business, that to me is safe. I think whatever you report, you read, you know, it's like 10% year on year growth.
Hmm.
It's doubling in value to over 2 trillion globally, and a lot of that is focused in Europe and in the UK. So
Right.
there's a sound investment there. I think that the outlook for the segment as a whole is solid.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Yep.
think, you know, then you think about where we are as an industry, as a wider hospitality industry. It's challenging times, right? You know,
Yep.
every spend, every cost needs to have a solid ROI behind it. You need to be able to justify why you're sending somebody on a course, or, you know, developing a what used to be an office space into a meeting and event space.
Yeah.
Um, but there are things coming that make this course, the timing of this, super relevant. So
Okay.
we as an industry, I think, are kind of on the verge of the tech revolution. You know, maybe a decade or two too late behind others, but there are finally the tools and systems coming, and they're coming in
Yes.
droves, that will allow the revenue management of meetings space to a far higher level. However, we still need the humans to be able
Of course.
manipulate those tools into doing so.
Yeah.
And then I think when you think about everything that's going on in the wider world around us, whether it's you know, political, socioeconomic, the costs are at an all-time high. It's incredibly unpredictable for operators. Meetings and events revenue, when done well, is a really good antidote to that.
Yeah.
It's forecastable. It has great profit margins. It brings in additional revenue, in addition to your other services in house. So I think there's a huge amount of reasons, kind of good and bad, that coming together. This is the perfect time for these courses to come about.
Yeah. 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 And again, I think one, I completely agree with everything you said. Of course, you're the expert on this call, but
Like it.
from the journey that sort of my journey, if you like, with the M&E side of things over the last 4 years, of course, and you've heard me say this a million times in those rooms, I am here to absorb. So my mouth is very, very much shut, and my ears are very much open. And I've learned so much about the amount of money that is being left on the table. We always look at that sort of 1 or 2% increase in revenue year on year. But if we really focus, and this was sort of said around the table more than once, but if we really focused on the optimization of our meetings and event space effectively, properly, with the right tools that are coming through, we know that from all the tech discussions that we've had as well, the capabilities of these properties and the people within them could increase revenue far more than the 1 or 2%. And then we're starting to look at hundreds of thousands, depending on the property, then millions.
Yeah.
And what I found so interesting, because I remember when I sort of pitched this to start doing the M&E sort of journey, there were a couple of leaders in the industry that said, don't, just don't. It's too much of a headache. It's too much of a, it's too complex. Everybody does it their own way. It's a complete mess, basically. Um, and honestly, that just spurred me on even more. But to see where we're at now, from an education standpoint, from a tech standpoint, and from a data and metric standpoint, as you well know from being on stage with Janelle and Danielle and so on, we have come so far as a collective in this space. It's almost unrecognizable where we were at the start of this, when we were just there with like pads, papers, post-its, just trying to figure out where we should go with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now, 1 second, as you so rightly said, with the two white papers that we've got, it's sort of it honestly, I believe that we've transformed the direction in which M&E revenue management is taking in the UK. If not, wider. But I just feel like this is such an exciting time for M&E, incredibly exciting. And with these courses, and they are the first of their kind. Like for anybody
Yeah.
watching,
Really. Yeah.
this is something that is the first of its kind. And AIex and obviously the team at HOSPA have created something that is groundbreaking. And I mean that literally. So from a people, I suppose, talent perspective, from my side of things anyway, we're going to see an opportunity for people to be able to learn, develop, enhance their skills, be able to make them the best they can be, which enables the hotels and of course people like me to have amazing talent out there that can effectively drive this M&E, this new world for M&E optimization.
That's it. And talent, obviously it's your home turf, right?
Sure.
Talent. But I think if you look at the cost of attrition and the challenge it is to find the right people for the right roles these days, the
Yeah.
smartest thing to do for me is to look in house and to invest in house. And
Yeah.
this course is not, and I just want to be really clear, it's not just me that's put this course together. There
Sure.
are a lot of people who have contributed. So there are decades of expertise that have gone into this course. And we didn't, my generation, my peers at this level don't have this growing up,
Sure.
growing up
Yep.
professionally. But what we meant, and so we've kind of figured it out along the way, and we've worked
Yeah.
with with different systems and different tools, and we've done a lot of stuff manually. So to be able to take all of that and then pour that in to
Amazing.
5 weeks of learning. I mean, the
Yeah.
challenge I had, I'll be honest with you, Janelle kept saying to me,
It's trying to put it into 5 weeks.
you gotta cut it down. You gotta cut it down. It's too much. It's good, but it's too much. So I've got a whole other, bank of resources ready for what I think is even more exciting is in September, hopefully, HOSPA want to launch a 5-month foundation certificate in this,
Right.
which will really take this up to the next level. And we've got a whole bunch of stuff from these courses that we just had to park and say, right, we'll come back to that if we're just getting into too much detail. I may have got a bit too excited.
I was going to say, you really dived in, didn't you?
Yeah. The screen was like reining me back.
So, in terms of how proud you are, because that was sort of that's part of that, because I know how much work's gone into this. And as you said, absolutely, there are multiple people that have been involved in the creation of this.
Yeah.
You're the person, I suppose, that is the tutor. You're the one that's been, driving this or spearheading it, I suppose, with the support of HOSPA and of course Janelle and others. But how proud are you of actually seeing it complete and having learners starting on Monday? That's got to be an incredibly proud feeling.
It really is, yeah. And I think those are bold claims, right, to say it's groundbreaking and everything like that. But you're right that it's a sign of a good idea when you think, really, nobody else has done this before. Like, really, are we the first? But I think I'm proud to obviously to be involved. I'm really proud that it kind of broadens the depth of amazing professional development that HOSPA already offers. So adding that string to their bow and to be a part of that is amazing. And I think when it kind of sunk in for me was at the graduation ceremony that
Yeah.
HOSPA held at the
I was
Savoy.
gutted I couldn't come this
I
year. I
know
go
you
every single
really. Oh,
year and I was so gutted.
what a treat it is. But seeing the learners there who've come through, and some of them have had some really challenging journeys, you know, these five
Yeah.
month course, and you're fitting it in around your full-time job. And as we know in hospitality, that, you know, that's not easy to do. But
No.
seeing the pride and seeing how passionately the learners spoke about how many options this courses have opened up to them, and how
Yeah.
big a part of it a career chapter it is. And then, of course, listening to Harry Murray, who, whenever he speaks, you know, the whole room just falls silent. He's
Captivated.
so,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he's so inspirational. So I think seeing that, and then sort of picturing the next stage of people who've been on the revenue management for meeting space courses, picturing that happening fast forward a year time was super inspirational. And yeah, so proud just to be a part of it and to be involved.
Absolutely. And again, so it would probably be what, sort of February, March next year.
Yeah,
Um, uh, the M&E sort of thing will be on the stage, right? You will have
yeah,
learners that will
yeah.
be getting awards. Like that is
Yes.
really,
Yeah,
really
yeah,
cool.
yeah. To visualize that. Yeah. So yeah, yeah. It's just amazing. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Now, can you give us a bit of a glimpse? So, as you said, there's so much to these courses, but can you
Yeah.
just give us a bit of a glimpse into the courses, just for anyone in the audience that is either really interested in the subject and would love to step into this course, or we may have actually employers that have teams that potentially could be perfect to enroll into this. So, can you just
Yeah.
give us a bit of a glimpse into it?
Of course. So as I said, there are two. So there are two courses
Yeah.
starting on Monday. So you've got firstly the elective module, which
Hmm.
is aimed primarily at prior hospital learners who've
Okay.
completed revenue management learning before,
Sure.
or you've got a really good kind of basis in the revenue management fundamentals already. So that's an
Yep.
elective module that tags on. And then you've got a short course as well. And
Hmm.
that's aimed really at anyone who's looking for an introduction to meeting space. It could be, you could be a GM, you could be in an operational leadership position, or you could be sort of starting out in the sales, revenue, commercial path,
Yeah.
and looking for what I like to call brilliant basics. So I had to park a lot of stuff for for September,
Sure.
but you know, we're thinking things. You know, you're looking at understanding demand, understanding diary management, segmentation, pricing, forecasting,
Yeah.
everything that you would need almost to go away after 5 weeks of learning, and it's about 4 or 5 hours each week, to feel like, yes, I've nailed those brilliant basics,
Yeah.
and I'm speaking the language, and I can take things away. And I think the best part about writing this actually was that whenever I would kind of liaise with HOSPA for feedback on the course, one of the most positive things I got back would be how tangible and how practical it is for the
Yeah.
businesses.
Yeah.
I think there maybe is a stigma. Now I'll hold my hand up. I haven't done any kind of formal learning or education in a long
Sure.
time. All of my
Sure.
training has been on the job.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there can be a stigma if you, like me, had never done any professional learning before, in your career, that it would be all theoretical, and you'd
Yes.
sort of have to learn one set of information here, and then you go back and you might be able to translate that into your day job. This is the opposite. This is super practical, super tangible. Even the assessment is something that you would then take back into your business from day one. So it's
Love
all
it.
about focusing around your business. And that should be whether you're a stadium, whether you're a hotel with a conference venue, whether,
Yeah.
you know, you've got cinemas and bowling alleys to sell. And that's something that HOSPA were really keen on ensuring
Yeah.
that it was that tangible, that practical learning. And it was also born out of the fact of, as I said, we had so many contributors from across the industry
Yeah. Yeah.
feeding into this. So there's a whole wide range of perspectives from different types of venue, different types of meeting spaces, to make
Mhm.
sure it's hopefully really relevant for all levels of learners.
Brilliant. And again, that was the interesting bit, because I was going to ask that question of, is it just focused towards people working in hotels? But clearly not. As long as they've
No,
got function space, as long as it could be venues, it could be stadiums, it could be hotels, it could be anything, right?
yeah. I think all too often you can actually find that meetings and events are sort of bundled in with group as a segment in
Yeah.
rooms.
Yeah.
And while, of course, that is relevant because that's in a lot of time the state that the business exists,
Hmm.
we really wanted it to be all about the meeting space.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. And again, what's really great to hear is that anyone that doing this course will be able to take that practical element and put it straight into their day-to-day
Yeah.
job. So
Yeah.
they're almost sort of, as you say, you're almost learning on the job because you're putting that
Yeah.
into it. And again, just thinking about this on the top of my head, and also that's going to enhance their career going forward, not just from an academic and course perspective and qualification perspective, but also, I imagine that their higher ups, their managers, they'll be like, wow, look what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
fantastic.
It should be ROI not just for the individual learner, as you say, but for the business as a whole. And that was, I think,
Absolutely.
really kind of, as I said, the fun part of writing it from a learner's perspective and pulling
Yeah,
together all of the kind of vast swathes of material that we have. And I think a special shout out needs to go to Heather Hart, who,
of course.
who contributed so much above and beyond into this course. But then, my job was made really easy by all of that because there's so much out there, and actually
Yeah,
then just kind of taking that and adapting it and putting it into a practical learning perspective, what I would want to know as a younger professional
yeah.
in the industry. Yeah, that was one of the highlights, really.
Well, shout out to Heather Hart. I'd like to do
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Any opportunity I get to shout out Heather Hart, absolutely. Heather, we love you very much, and for everything that you've done from our side of things on the meeting side, but also from the course side. I was going to say as well, Alex, that that's one thing that historically HOSPA have always been really good at doing is bringing that sort of ROI to the business. So, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, it's the achievement of the learner. They've put their heart into this, they put their time into this, they put their effort into it. But what HOSPA have done so well historically and clearly within this course as well is creating an environment or an opportunity for not only the person to benefit, but for the business that they're working for to benefit. And that's always been shown through the support that usually the hotels that these learners are working in, when they come to the awards ceremonies and they're able to support and celebrate the achievements of these
Yeah.
learners, it's always been an incredibly heartwarming thing for me. But from a commercial perspective, it's actually massively beneficial as well. And HOSPA have proven that time and time again across the suite of courses that they offer.
Hmm.
And that's been, since I've been involved with them. So it's one of those where yet again I see this, and of course I might be a bit biased, but I see this being another huge success. Massive, absolutely
Absolutely. Yeah.
massive.
Absolutely.
But what do you I suppose this is where, so we're at the very start of this journey, I suppose. What do you see the future holds for this course specifically, but I suppose the future of M&E revenue management going forward?
I think it's such a good question. I think and I hope and I strongly think this is hopefully the domino. Did I say think and hope enough there? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is for me. This is the first domino that needed to fall, really. And there's
Sure.
been a lot of momentum behind it, and now finally it's falling. And I think this course, is only going to get better and better. And I
Yep.
think the reason I was so happy to be asked to tutor it and not just pull it all together was that we will evolve with the course. We will take learner feedback. We
Yeah.
will look for continual improvement. These things are not designed to be static and
Of
stuck in
course.
time. And as we talked about earlier, with technologies coming in, things need to be updated and capabilities change. So
Yeah.
we will continue to evolve these courses so they are always super relevant. I mean, so much so the demand has been so great. We've already got another course lined up for
Mm.
June, so another 5
Yeah.
week learning program, which again I will be tutoring. And then the goal would be, as I said, to launch the 5 month foundation certificate come
Yeah.
September.
Yeah.
So to have these mixtures of formats as well, and to have this range of audiences, whether you're a GM, whether you're a revenue manager, whether you're a meeting and event sales executive. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of it, I think it's really important, as you know, I'm from a sales background, it's really important to acknowledge that a lot of the time these revenue management decisions
Yeah.
are being made by event sales executives.
Sure.
So I think there's a whole, maybe we don't have time to get into it today, but there's a whole other, the whole potential knock-on effect on structuring of teams and where
Yeah.
does this actually sit. And we talk as you know, endlessly about total revenue management.
Yes, yeah.
So I almost don't want to say those words, but I think this does have an impact on total revenue management, because sometimes you can say that and still meeting and events isn't included.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or acknowledging that actually this role of the meeting and event sales executive is a super busy role where you're
Yeah,
client facing, you're dealing with hundreds of inquiries a week, hopefully,
yeah,
and you're making pretty big strategic revenue management decisions.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot there, but I think hopefully what it does is it, as I said, it's a catalyst, it's a domino effect for more learning, but it just brings us up, and we just keep improving from
yeah.
here on here, and no longer will it be acceptable to say, yeah, that's the ballroom, it's booked out
Mm.
Monday to Thursday, we don't really use it at the weekend, or this is a private dining room, but no, we don't put, you don't use, we will look at meeting and event space differently when
Yeah,
we realize its capabilities and the capabilities that we need to unlock in our people to
yeah,
sell them.
yeah, absolutely. And again, you brought that point up about, and this has come up in the meetings more than once from a structural perspective, but sort of an ownership perspective of
Mm,
how much more are we putting onto M&E sales execs or M&E sales managers. That role, just like so I talk about revenue management a lot and how that role has expanded and has become unrecognizable from where it was 5, 10 years ago.
right.
Do you see the same thing happening with the M&E? So I think we're already seeing it, but do you predict that that scope of an M&E sales exec or an M&E sales manager will massively change over the next, say, 5, 10 years as a result of where the industry is developing to?
I mean, I hope so, because
Mm.
it's typically, I mean, I think when you think about career paths,
Yep.
there isn't the same scope of career paths
Sure.
traditionally as exist in other in other roles that are quite
Yeah.
like. And I think as well, and I keep going back to technology, I'm sorry, but I
No,
think,
no.
so having done that role for quite a number of years,
Mm.
I think there's so much that we can be putting our people to better use
Yes.
when we move away from manual processes,
Hmm.
when we start to treat this like a revenue management discipline
Yep.
and not like a sort of static say, not a sort of static sales approach, but we really engineer this as a revenue management discipline. That's when I think we can start to make career paths more attractive. We
Yes.
can develop our people to a higher level.
Hmm.
We can obviously develop our profits to a higher level alongside that. But yeah, it's kind of all coming together at once,
Mm.
I think, as we kind of hopefully ride this wave into the future.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And again, if I come back to where this all started, and where we are now, who
Yeah,
knows where we're going to be in 5 years? Now the course is in place. Now the tech is starting to come out with more sophisticated focuses for these roles. And
yeah,
then, of course, the firmed up data and metric side of things. That as a powerhouse combination is setting this part of the market or this part of the industry
yeah.
for a very, very exciting future ahead.
Yeah.
It really
And
is.
I think, something as simple as the metrics that we decided as
Yeah.
being the key, to not have key metrics or KPIs that you can benchmark yourself
Yeah.
against your comp set, or to not have comp set data. I think that's probably like hotel revenue management in the 60s, right? Before that all came in. So yeah.
Honestly, I'm looking. What I think we should do is you and I catch up. I don't know, maybe same time next year, and see where things are. See how
Yeah.
things are going with the course.
Pop
See
this
where
in a
we're
time
at.
capsule. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know? And we'll
Yeah.
probably have what? We'll have another. So we've got one, two. We've got three more M&E commercial leadership meetings this year. One of which is going to be focused on education. So
Mhm.
perfect.
Perfect.
Um, yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting 12 months. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really interesting. Well, Alex, I want to say a massive thank you to you for taking some time out. I know how incredibly busy you are, and obviously you're prepping for start of next week. But thank you so much for taking the time. It's been an absolute pleasure to finally get you on E&Ftv.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for having me to talk about such an important topic as well.
No, thank you so much. And guys, Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. If you are interested in taking up a HOSPA course, whether that's the M&E one or, of course, other courses in the suite, I will be providing a link down below. Please do click that link, find out more. If you are someone that wants to take up a course, of course, if you're someone that is an employer, you have a team and you think that they may benefit again from either the M&E course or, of course, the full suite of courses that HOSPA offer, again, click the link below. I know they would love to hear from you and I have no doubt that they'll be able to help. So I want to say a massive thank you to all of our viewers that have tuned into this week's episode. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the community for more guests and episodes just like Alex, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.